Hi everyone, good morning. Welcome to the sixth lesson of this course Tuesdays with Morrie. I'm Abhishek TR and I'll be your presenter today. A little information about who I am. To follow my latest courses, do follow me on Unacademy. Today we'll be talking about culture and forgiveness, that being the topic for the 11th and the 12th Tuesday. As I already mentioned, Morrie's condition had worsened and at this point he was gasping for breath. We have Mitch hitting on Morrie on his back to make sure that he breathes a lot. And whack, now and then he gives one more and more. And he keeps saying that, this is for the B you gave me in sophomore year, Morrie. Even when they were having such a little conversation, Mitch was feeling really bad for Morrie. He was there, sitting there like a little child, not able to do his own things. This is what Mitch had to say. I drummed on his back and sides, moving around. I hated the idea of Maurice lying in bed under any circumstances, and curled on his side. He was so small, so withered. It was more of a boy's body than a man's. In spite of all that, it was pretty interesting to see that Morrie had been positive all along. And then he said one line. When did I give you a B, Mitch? Later that day, when Morrie was about to talk, they started talking about the culture. Then he started talking about people. This is what Morrie had to say. People are only mean when they're threatened. And that's what our culture does. That's what our economy does. Even people who have jobs in our economy are threatened because they worry about losing them. And when you get threatened, you start looking out only for yourself. That is when money becomes God, and that is when you become selfish. There's something else that you have to ponder upon. Big things like how we think, what we value, and what we have to choose for ourselves. Determine everything, and you'll understand the important aspects of life. When Morrie talks about culture, he doesn't mean to demean the community. He says, I don't go around naked, for example. I don't run through red lights. This is part of the culture as well. The little things I can obey, but there are big things, like I said, the values, the way we think. This is not supposed to be shaped by our society or our culture. It is something that you have to identify your own self and keep your identity, just to make sure that you don't get lost into oblivion or get stuck in the matrix of illusion. And then Morrie starts talking about discrimination that we have in the recent world. Have you ever considered the fact that we are all one and we have been divided only because of such beliefs that had been created over generations and generations? Blacks, whites, religions, caste, countries, Asians, non-Asians. It's divided. It's totally divided. And Mori has a problem with all this. And look at us. It's like a huge human family, and we're supposed to invest in people, and we're supposed to build a little community of those you love and those we love. But this is not we do. The problem is that we don't believe we are much alike. We believe in differences. If we saw each other as more alike, we might be very eager to join in one big human family in this world and care about the family. But believe me, when you're dying, you see it is true. Quite a fact, right? There might be times when you might be sick and the only person who's looking after you is someone you must have hated a lot. You might be alone and you might be in a place where you thought you might not be, but then that is how life works and that is what gives you a new, fresh perspective of life. On the 11th Tuesday, with a whisper, Morrie drops a little secret to Mitch. Here's the secret. In between, we need others as well. Simple but thought provoking. And with that, we'll move on to the next Tuesday, the 12th Tuesday. Today, we'll be talking about forgiveness and letting it go. When the helpers were taking care of Mitch, when the helpers were taking care of Morrie with Mitch, Mitch whispered a little line. Forgive yourself before you die, then forgive others. Morrie had been having thoughts about his past, and he must be regretting someone he must have not forgiven. And this is what he said. There is no point in keeping vengeance or stubbornness. These things These things I so regret in my life. Pride, vanity. Why do we do the things we do? This time, without Mitch asking any questions, Morrie started talking. He started talking about a little sculpture that was there on the shelf. It was given to him by his friend, a long-time friend, and his name was Norman. They used to spend a lot of time together. They went swimming. They went to New York for rides. They went to Cambridge together as well. But what happened suddenly? Morrie's face gave a whimsical look. And then came the sad part of the story. Apparently, Norman and his wife had moved away to Chicago, and when Morrie and his wife had a pretty serious operation, Norman could not visit him. And this fact made sure that Morrie was hurt a little. Anyway, from that day, Morrie decided not to be in touch with Norman anymore. He was prideful, he shrugged him off, and then he didn't listen to any explanation from Norman. And something really bad happened after that. A few years later, he died of cancer, and until this point, Morrie had been regretting not forgiving him and not forgiving himself. Morrie pulls Mitch closer, and then he talks about his work and his ambitions, and then he says, "Forgive ourselves for all the things we didn't do, all the things we should have done. You can't get stuck on the regrets of what you should have happened. I always wished I had done with more work. I had written more books. I used to beat myself up. Now I see that never did any good. Make peace. You need to make peace with yourself and everyone around you." I ask you, the listener, when was the last time you beat yourself up for not performing well in the exams, not getting that nice promotion, and then beating yourself up for not performing well at any point of your life? This is what you have to do. Close your eyes and forgive yourself and make peace once and for all. With that talks, Morrie silently looks at his deathbed and then says, "Oh Mitch, I think I'll have a perfect tombstone at this place. Not far from here, on a hill, beneath a tree, overlooking a pond. Very serene, a good place to think." Tick tock, and Morrie's time was ending. And then he said one beautiful line to Mitch. "After I'm dead, you talk and I listen." With that, we end today's session. And for today's assignment, I'll just drop a easy question. Something like, when was the last time you had a fight with someone you knew a lot and then you thought like, no, I'm not going to talk to him forever? And here's what you do today. Pick up the phone, make peace with him, and smile. That's it. Yep, that's about it. And I'll be leaving today. Bye bye. I'll meet you with the last lesson of this course. See you. Sayonara.